Hi, Shawn. My name is Amber Thornton, and I wanted to take a moment and respond to your discussion board post concerning the article that we read, the story, I should say, on the fish. There was quite a few things that you mentioned that I thought was really great when we're talking about learning and really grasping the concept of what qualitative research is. You mentioned first how, when we talk about this storyline and we parallel it with qualitative research, that here in the storyline, the fish is actually the phenomenon that's being studied, that's being observed. But even throughout the article, we see that what's most important is not really the phenomenon as much as it is the observer or the researcher, we should say. And so a lot of the parallels that we see here from the student and as us as researchers is that though the phenomenon is the thing that's being studied, what's most important is how we approach it as the researcher. One of the things that you mentioned is you talked about how, just referencing how the student transitioned through personal biases and presuppositions in order to arrive at an objective observation. And that was one thing that really stuck out to me as well, is how it's important to be mindful of our biases that Cresswell and Poth talk about all the time in their texts, how we have to be aware of our biases that we do bring into our research and our studies. But even here with the student, we noticed they were immediately disengaged. Like they were not really interested. And with the professor prompting him to continue to research more, to observe more, is when more interest began to be sparked. And so for me, I kind of got the same revelation when we talk about paralleling it with qualitative research, that a lot of times when we're looking at things face value, just because we're not observing more intricately, more in a more micro level, we talked about the micro and the macro. Cresswell and Poth also mentioned that in the text, like micro and macro observations are really important. The TA, David Netz, also mentioned that in his video about inductive approach to research, to studying the Bible. That if we just stay in a macro observation, we're going to miss some things. And so I do believe that the student had a personal bias when they first started out that kept them in a macro observation. I've seen all I can see. But with the professor prompting him more, he was able to see that there was more to be seen about the fish. And so you see the student go on this journey through their personal bias into a more objective observation. And you even mentioned at the end of your post that the skill that was learned through this process was actually something that was going to be really useful for them going forward in their career. So even though he was starting out learning about fish that was not something he felt passionate about, the skill set that he learned to be able to push through and learn about a species that he wasn't necessarily drawn to was something he could take when he does research more into studying things that he is passionate about. I love too that Cresswell and Poth also talking about how the researcher is a key instrument. They mentioned this on page 43 when we're learning about the different characteristics of qualitative research. And so you can really see this really prevalent and well here in the story of the fish, that while the fish is the thing being observed, the phenomenon, as you say, which I really thought was great, what's really important, the key instrument here is actually the researcher. And so at the end of the story, we can see that not only did the researcher grow past personal biases, but actually became very fond of the fish. And so I think that's what's really great about research and study, is that while a lot of times we go into situations thinking we know or have a base knowledge, being really open to learning more and not allowing our personal biases to take precedence is really important. Anyways, I enjoyed reading your post and look forward to dialoguing more in this class. Have a great day.